Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. So, am I a hero? Brian opened up with giving us these pieces of paper and having us write something down, and we later found out what that turned out to be. It was a very interesting variation on a technique of tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Right? And he told us what he was going to tell us, but without actually telling us. So that was a pretty amazing trick there. I liked about Brian that he had a lot of figures to share with us, and having accurate figures, some of them weren't that accurate, but having accurate figures gives you credibility. And as long as the audience doesn't know that they're not accurate, you can still get the credibility. So I had a lot of credibility towards what Brian was sharing with us during his speech. Another thing that he did was use a personal story. It's always easier to speak about a personal story, and being able to share a personal story makes you more effective because people can emphasize with you, and they really feel what you feel because you are relating your own feelings to them. So that was another very useful technique that Brian used. His objective of the speech was to convince us to do something, and specifically to convince us to donate blood. And he did, I think, an outstanding job of convincing us. Having us write the card with our own writing, getting people to do something, to take the first step, commits them towards something. If they just listen and they don't actually act on it, then they don't get as committed as if they actually take some action. So I think part of the job of convincing someone to do something is to convince them to do the first step. And Brian had us do the first step right there and then by writing the card. So I found that very, very effective. In terms of, obviously, Brian has done the speech quite a few times. It's very polished. His delivery was pretty good. So it's hard to find points for improvement. But two things that I did notice during the speech were a little bit of hand clasping and a little bit of kind of pacing in place. So perhaps being a bit more open and using a bit more room while talking to us would have made him deliver an even more powerful message. So to conclude my evaluation, I think that Brian is actually a real hero for coming up and talking to people and convincing them to donate blood. Well done.